The ballroom shimmered like a dream built of chandeliers and whispered envy. She stood at the edge of the dance floor, clutching her glass of water like a lifeline. Lila Bennett wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this world of diamonds, laughter, and designer dresses. She was only working the event, helping coordinate the charity gala for her company, a face in the background of other people's luxury. But then she saw him, her ex, the man who'd broken her heart and left her to start over from nothing. His arm was draped around another woman, his laughter sharp enough to slice through the music. The air in her chest turned thin. She turned away quickly, pretending to be busy, but his eyes found her anyway. That smirk, that same cruel curve of lips she remembered from the night he'd said, "You're not enough for me." The words replayed in her mind, louder than an orchestra. She tried to breathe. The lights above glittered, mocking her. She didn't want him to see her alone, standing in the same place he'd once told her she'd never belong. Then she felt a panic she couldn't hide and whispered to no one in particular, "Could you dance with me? My ex is watching." For a second, she thought she'd just embarrass herself, talking to empty air. But then a deep, calm voice answered beside her. "Of course." She turned and froze. A tall man stood there in a black suit, posture confident, eyes the color of late-night storms. His gaze held no pity, only quiet assurance. He extended a hand, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she took it. His touch was warm, grounding. The orchestra shifted, the lights softened, and he led her onto the floor with a grace that made her forget the rest of the room. As they began to dance, her ex turned to watch, confusion flashing across his smug face. Lila felt the stranger's hand press lightly against her back, guiding her through the rhythm. "You didn't have to," she murmured. "Maybe I wanted to," he replied, his tone smooth, effortless. She looked up at him, heart pounding, the scent of cedar and faint cologne pulling her senses closer. "Do you always rescue strangers from awkward exes?" "Only the ones who ask nicely." She laughed softly despite herself, the first real laugh she'd had in months. Around them, the ballroom spun in gold and glass. To everyone else, they looked like a couple lost in their own world. But to her, it felt like she'd stepped into a dream she didn't deserve. When the song ended, he didn't immediately let go. "He's still watching," he said quietly. "Then keep dancing," she whispered back. And so they did. Another song, another moment. It felt too natural, too safe. When the music finally faded, he bowed slightly. "Thank you for the dance," she said, breathless. "The pleasure was mine," he replied. His tone carried a weight she couldn't place. Before she could ask his name, one of the event organizers called her over. She turned for just a second, and when she looked back, he was gone. All that remained was a faint memory of his touch and the echo of his words. The next morning, Lila arrived at her new job, her first day at Vail Industries. She'd been hired as an executive assistant to the CEO after weeks of interviews she hadn't believed she'd get through. She adjusted her blazer nervously, carrying a folder of orientation papers, praying she wouldn't make a fool of herself. The elevator opened on the top floor. A woman from HR led her to a glass-walled office. "Mr. Vail will see you now," she said with a polite smile. Lila stepped inside, rehearsing her greeting. But when she looked up, her heart stopped. Standing by the window, dressed in the same quiet confidence, was the man from the ballroom, her dance partner. "Good morning," he said, turning toward her with a knowing smile. "Welcome to Vail Industries." Lila nearly dropped her folder. "You're Ethan Vail," he said, "your new boss." For a long moment, neither spoke. The air felt charged with something unsaid. He gestured toward the seat opposite his desk. "Please, sit." Lila sat down, pulse thundering in her ears. "I didn't realize—" "Neither did I," he interrupted gently. "But I'm glad we met." Her cheeks flushed. "About last night, I hope I didn't cause any trouble." He shook his head. "Not at all. I enjoyed it." His gaze lingered for a second longer than it should have. "You danced beautifully." "I was terrified," she admitted. "Could have fooled me." Their eyes met again, a spark passing between them. She looked away, unsure what to do with the feeling blooming in her chest. Over the next few weeks, work became an excuse to see him again. Ethan was a man of few words, but when he spoke, his attention was absolute. He noticed details others ignored. When she skipped lunch, when she rubbed her temples after long hours, when she lingered by the window to breathe. One night, she stayed late finishing reports. He appeared in the doorway, jacket off, sleeves rolled. "You should go home," he said softly. "Deadlines don't care," she murmured. "But people do," he replied. "Let me drive you." She hesitated, then nodded. The ride was quiet, the city lights reflecting on the windshield like falling stars. "Why do you care?" she asked finally. "Because you remind me of who I used to be," he said. "Someone who forgot to stop fighting." She didn't reply, but the warmth in his voice stayed with her long after she stepped out of the car. The next morning, the company prepared for another gala, this time hosted by Vail Industries. Lila found her name on the list of staff attendees. When she saw her ex's company among the sponsors, her stomach turned. Ethan noticed. "You don't have to go," he said. "Yes, I do," she answered. "I won't run again." He smiled faintly. "Then don't run. Dance." That night, the ballroom shimmered again, just as before. But this time, Lila wasn't hiding in the corner. She stood tall, head high, strength where fear used to be. Her ex approached, smirk still sharp. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said. "Guess some people can't stay away." "You're right," she said calmly. "I'm here because I belong." Before he could reply, Ethan appeared beside her. "Everything all right?" he asked, tone polite but protective. Her ex's face paled as realization hit. "You're her boss," Ethan said, shaking his hand firmly, "and her partner on the new charity initiative." The ex stammered something meaningless, excused himself, and disappeared into the crowd. Lila turned to Ethan, eyes bright with disbelief. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," he said simply. "No one humiliates my employee or the woman who taught me what real grace looks like." She smiled, heartful. "I think this is the part where you ask me to dance again." Ethan's lips curved. "Would you? My exes are watching this time." "Good," he said softly, taking her hand. "Then this one's just for us." The music swelled around them, slower, softer. They moved together like they'd been doing it all their lives. The world faded, leaving only the quiet rhythm of two hearts finally in sync. As the night drew to a close, Lila rested her head against his shoulder, whispering, "Thank you." "For what?" "For showing me I didn't need pretend to be enough." He smiled. "You always were." The lights dimmed. Applause rose somewhere in the background, but they didn't hear it. They just kept dancing, unbothered by the world that had once watched her fall. Now, for the first time, she wasn't pretending. She was home,